This episode of Test Drive is brought to you by Elmec and their EV Duty Smart Home Charger. Lincoln has a very strong brand identity. They want to make vehicles that are comfortable and more or less simple to use for their luxury buyers. And it doesn't get much more straightforward than a vehicle like this.
That's right, we have here a 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring, which is a plug-in hybrid.
And it's a small range plug-in hybrid too, especially for 24. I mean, like, this is not much range, is it?
So it's rated for just under 50 kilometers of EV only range, but in reality, I'm getting closer to like 30, 35, something like that. Could be because of the weather, but I would like to have a little bit more charging, a little bit more EV range.
Yes, and we'll talk about that quite a bit on our road test. But for your information, this vehicle is about $80,000 Canadian. It went up by $590 for the 24 models from 23, and it's about $68,000 in the States.
That's right. Now, before you say anything, $80,000 is a lot of money.
It is, yeah.
But this is also a fully loaded version of the Corsair. Here, under the hood, we have a 2.5 liter Atkinson cycle inline 4 engine, and it is paired with 2 motors.
And we've got all-wheel drive. So a couple weeks ago, we featured the Ford Escape, which is the sister car to this. We were supposed to have the plug-in hybrid, and the major disadvantage of that vehicle was the plug-in was only front-wheel drive. But when you go with a Lincoln luxury vehicle, you're getting that all-wheel drive, which I think is a nice plus to have.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, most people that are going for these sort of SUV is a must-have in terms of all-wheel drive, especially up in Canada. You know, the weather gets cold and snowy and all that kind of stuff. All-wheel drive is, for most people, especially for Lincoln owners, a must-have.
For sure. And I mean, we're comparing it to, you know, Cadillac would be the most comparable. The XT4 is not a plug-in hybrid, but things like the BMW X3 plug-in hybrid or even the Audi Q4 e-tron, kind of in the same price point, or even the Lexus NX is what you were saying as well. Very much on par in terms of what you're getting out of those vehicles. So a lot of choice, a lot to choose from in terms of segment-wise. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty much every option selected on it. Yeah,
that's right. This segment has quite a few competitors, but it is also a very expensive segment to be in. Let's talk a little bit about the power outputs of this vehicle. So under the hood with the Atkinson cycle 4-cylinder, we have a combined 266 horsepower. We don't have a rated torque figure, but we do have a decent amount of pickup and torque that we can feel. I would say from my butt detector, it would be around, you know, 250, 280, something along those lines, combined torque.
It's funny, it's the second plug-in that we featured recently that doesn't, the manufacturer doesn't publish the torque numbers on them. So I think we're going in that direction now. The battery pack on this is a 14.4 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery. And as we'll be talking about a little bit more in terms of charging, we're only seeing 3.6 kilowatts of charging capabilities on level 2 here. That's about half of what a vehicle like this should be charging at.
That's right, it doesn't charge fast, and even if you have a level 2 charger, it doesn't charge fast either. So if you're running errands, you know, within a couple of hours, you might face a problem here.
Yeah, it's like 3 to 4 hours charging time from what we've experienced so far. That's both at home at our EV Duty Smart Home Charger, as well as a public level 2 charger station here in St. Thomas. We wanted to make sure that it wasn't something on our end. It's just maxing out at about 15 amps, which again is about half of what it should be at. But for the most part, you're getting, as we mentioned, fully loaded. There's a lot of safety tech and features that come on this vehicle. We have things like the new Lincoln Active Glide 1.2, which adds some new features to this vehicle that wasn't on it the last time we drove it, including hands-free lane change, predictive speed assist, in-lane repositioning, so the vehicle will center itself in the lane, but also if there's a larger vehicle in the lane next to you, it'll kind of move out of the way a little bit to give you a little bit more space, as well as intersection assist 2.0.
Yeah, that's right, and it also changes lanes for you and all that kind of stuff. It's sort of a seamless one-touch, you know, cruising, as in the name of this vehicle, Grand Touring, right? Yeah. It gets the job done. But very effortless.
It didn't for you, right? You weren't able to get Blue Cruise to work.
That's right. You know, I've tried this car and I haven't been able to activate Blue Cruise for whatever reason it is. It just wouldn't activate for me. However, the lane centering itself without the Blue Cruise still does a very good job.
That's good.
In contrast with some of the GM vehicles, if you don't have Super Cruise active, they don't have lane centering. They only have lane departure, which just bounces you between the lanes.
Yes, that's a good point. So there's some good stuff going on with it. This is a facelift for the previous model year as well. So front end, bigger grille, slightly different headlights. They've changed it up a little bit, seamline the exterior. The big changes are inside. We have more interior color choices. We've got a reddish burgundy on this one. And then Sync 4 is the big standout feature in terms of the tech on there. They've changed the interior a little bit, again, to match what we saw with the Escape.
Yeah, that's right. I think this is a very good looking small SUV here. With the two-tone colors, with the floating roof and all that kind of stuff. I think overall this is a very good looking vehicle. It's got big rims as well. Just all in all, a very pretty car.
But we need to figure out how it is on the road and how it performs as a hybrid. So I think we should hit the road and see everything else about the 24 Lincoln Corsair.
Let's do it. All right, now we're inside the 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring. Niall, how are we feeling inside?
Well, this is obviously a facelift for this model year. We were talking about how they've changed it. The last one we drove was a 22, and it was the non-plug-in hybrid. So, you know, kind of familiar, but I do like the red. You know, there's a couple more interior color options, as mentioned. We've got the 24-way perfect position seat package on here, which, you know, we've talked about on some of the other Lincoln models, is great, but sometimes can be a little excessive, the amount of control you've got on them, but that's fine. We've got the 14-speaker Rebel audio system on here, which sounds good as well. But yeah, I mean, like it's a pretty elegant design for the most part, and some harder materials up top, and you know, it is reminiscent of the Ford Escape that we drove, but not necessarily in a bad way.
That's right. We've got some burgundy red interior that I really enjoy. This color, it's a darker sort of red, so it doesn't pop as much as the Lexus red that we find.
Yep.
So this is a good option for a slightly muted color scheme. Alternatively, you can get a beige interior as well as a black interior as well.
Yeah, a couple options for interiors overall. So it's nice that Lincoln's adding some more. And we talked about it outside. These types of vehicles are meant for, you know, the type of buyer who's not too fussy. And that's fine, because there's so much choice in the luxury market these days that everybody's going performance. You know, Cadillac, they're going very performance. BMW's always been performance. Mercedes, still more luxury, but AMGs are a little sportier. They have a harsher ride to it. So Lincoln says, no, none of that. We're going to make it as comfortable and serene as possible of an experience. And that's part of the reason why we're feeling that maybe the plug-in hybrid system here is a little less intuitive than we've seen on other vehicles.
Yeah, and this car, speaking of comfort, it is very comfortable. I mean, I have massaging seats too. One of the few in this segment to have massaging seats option, and I'm thoroughly enjoying whatever long drives that I need to go on.
Yeah, this would be great for long trips, especially with the hybrid system. Obviously, you're getting the best bang for your buck in town, but it does help a little bit. You know, so far we're averaging what, 5.2 liters per 100 kilometers? Yeah. So pretty good numbers overall, better than the Pacifica plug-in that we had before. So those numbers are exceptionally good for a larger plug-in hybrid like this. You know, we're starting to see bigger vehicles. You know, most of the stuff we've featured before are more in the subcompact department, and then, you know, some of the higher end luxury stuff is bigger. So yeah, this is a petite vehicle, but space is pretty good. You know, I've got good headroom. Backseat space looks pretty good as well. Yeah,
that's right. In terms of space, it's very adequate for this size of vehicle. It has heated seats in the back as well as front, heated and ventilated seats. Pretty much fully, well, not pretty much, literally fully loaded vehicle. This is top of the line that you can get in a Corsair. Speaking a little bit more about the efficiency and stuff like that, this vehicle is paired with an eCVT transmission that makes the hybrid driving very seamless and very smooth. You know, oftentimes I don't notice the engine coming on, and perhaps this is the way that Lincoln wants it to be, because I don't get a lot of information on my screens as well. So Lincoln wants us to just drive and don't worry about anything. And I think they've accomplished that, because I know nothing about the car.
Yeah, there you go, right? Like, you know, there's no percentage of your current battery charge, and then there's information in the owner's manual about a specific power gauge that you can have on the screen. It doesn't work, and we've checked. We've gone online, we've looked at forums. Not applicable for some reason, despite it being a hybrid-only version. So there's some small stuff there that's a little weird. But yeah, I mean, it really is one of those vehicles that, again, if you're the type of buyer who is maybe a little cautious about the electric future, you're not quite sure, you want something that's a little bit more simple, it can't get much more simple than this, really. You just plug it in, you charge it. Okay, it takes twice as long as any other plug-in we've ever tested, but you let it charge for 4 hours, you're good to go. On a level 2, you do have some scheduling capabilities, so if you're a little bit more advanced, you could get through and get going on that. But yeah, more or less a set it and forget it experience with some good drive modes to be able to set it up, whether you're in conserve or the excite mode or some lower traction modes. There are some options there. So for, again, the type of buyer that's going to be looking at this, somebody who doesn't want a BMW or an Audi or a Mercedes because it could be either too complicated or too harsh on the road, this is a great option.
Ultimately, because this is a plug-in hybrid and we do rely on charging the vehicle and enjoying the vehicle with both electric motors as well as gas-powered engines, gas-powered powers, I do appreciate, I would like to have a little bit more information. I would like to know if my engine is turned on or not, where's the power going, how much power am I using, overall a little bit more information. Now I'm sort of blinded by just a very simple gauge cluster that shows me my speed. That's pretty much it. In terms of the driving dynamics of this car, this is definitely built for comfort. We have a 2-stage suspension dampening system that I actually don't really notice much of a difference, but it's there. You don't have a lot of control over what the car does, but it would change in different dampening system based on your drive mode. That's really the only thing that ties in the suspension dampening changes. We have paddle shifters for fake CVT shifts, but we don't have a tachometer.
Yeah, because the display doesn't work, right? So, how are you supposed to do the manual shift mode with it? It'd be better if Lincoln did something like we just saw this past week on the Cadillac Lyriq, have a paddle shifter to actually increase the brake regen, right? Because it has an actual brake mechanism there. Nothing like that. So the paddle shifters are typical paddle shifters. So again, a couple refinements here. When we look for these vehicles, we do look at a lot of different criteria for plug-in hybrids or electrics, right? It's not getting any passing grades at all for the actual charging capabilities. It's not getting anything for really the control because there's no brake mode, there's no brake regen buttons, there's nothing to control that. We can't see what sort of is going on behind the scenes either. So as a plug-in hybrid, it's not getting a lot of good scores here. As a luxury vehicle though, it's pretty good overall. So it's kind of the trade-off here. You're saving a little bit of money, not getting the full tax credit here in Canada with this being such a smaller range, and the price is a little bit high too, so you're only getting a small tax credit on this, but it gives you some options, right? There's more choice on the marketplace, the better. Hopefully it pushes some innovation. We see some more competition because, again, as we mentioned, the historical competitor to the Lincoln has always been Cadillac. There's nothing right now in the plug-in space. GM doesn't have any real plans for plug-in hybrids, but maybe if sales are good on this, it could convince them to bring out a plug-in hybrid version of the XT4.
Yeah, that's right. And in addition to that, we also have a head-up display that I think we missed mentioning. It does show you a decent amount of information like your speed limit, and how much range you have left, and more importantly, your lane keep assist, that shows up all on your head-up display, which is nice. Does alert you a lot if you're not focused on the road and if you're not holding the steering wheel when you should be. So those are very good safety features that we have. What more can we say about this car? I think it's a very all-rounded, comfortable luxury vehicle. The engine is very efficient. Perhaps something that the customers or potential customers of this price bracket and vehicle segment is looking for is they don't mind putting the money in, but they do mind getting good fuel economy, because that's a psychological thing over spending the extra money in a sense, right?
No, that's true. And if you're saving a little bit more, that would be best. So I think best case scenario, if you're buying one of these, you're going to be doing a lot of stuff in town. You know, highway driving is fine, but it really is more of an in-town commuter. And yeah, you know, we want to see some refinements with the plug-in system. If Lincoln's listening, right, you just did a facelift. Let's maybe add some of this stuff and make those improvements to make this a better plug-in hybrid, so that it can be as good of a plug-in hybrid as it is a luxury crossover.
Yeah. Now we have the vehicle in the Excite mode. This is where you get all the power and everything you have, and we're at a stoplight, so let's floor it and see.
Hey, you know what? That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, if you're getting away from the cops or something, like, you know, you could certainly consider this to be an option. But that was decent. I mean, the sound was atrocious, but you know, it's got to get up and go. Especially with two of us in the car. I'm humongous, no problems whatsoever. I didn't feel any lag with the system getting up to speed there. So
no, the system is very good. I think eCVT itself, with the planetary motors and gears and stuff like that, actually makes using two powertrains in conjunction very, very well, seamlessly and very, very smooth. Power is adequate for this vehicle. I would say it's enough power to do some passing over the highway, and enough get up and go with a stoplight, you know, flooring and that kind of stuff. What I want to talk about last is the pricing of this vehicle.
Yeah.
You know, the Corsair starts at a very reasonable price, but the packages and trim levels just bump it up significantly.
Yeah.
And I feel like this final package that puts it into the price bracket that it is right now is what most people wouldn't select to go for.
yeah, you're going to lose out on the head-up display.
Yes.
We figured it was head-up display, rear heated seats, and then the Blue Cruise system that we haven't been able to test on this. So you'd lose out on that stuff, but it'd be nice to have the HUD and the rear heated seats.
Yeah, and those four things is a $7,000 option.
Yeah, it's pretty pricey.
$8,000 actually.
Yep.
It's $8,000 option in Canada here. And really, with such good lane centering already, do you really need that Blue Cruise? And head-up display is nice to have, but again, do you really need it?
No, and there's some trade-offs too. You don't have to go with this paint, because I think the paint was like $800 or something, and then the wheels as well. We upgraded to the 20-inch rims on this, so there's some cost savings that you could definitely eliminate from this build and have a just as functional vehicle without having to spend quite as much. So there's some good options there from Lincoln overall. But yeah, I mean, you'd be losing on a couple of those things that are really nice to have, especially if you're going all in, you want to have everything. It's all tied in together, so maybe you don't need the Blue Cruise, but you're kind of stuck getting it.
Yeah, and if you do want the massaging seats, you have to go with the highest trim, unfortunately. But if that's not a deal breaker for you, I think you would be very happy with a reasonably spec'd Corsair plug-in hybrid at around, closer to the low 70s.
Yeah, and that's kind of where the sweet spot would be for this market.
That's right.
Well, that does it for this episode of Test Drive. As we mentioned, we did do the Corsair a couple of years ago, but it was the regular non-plug-in hybrid version. So if you want to know a little bit more about it, you can take a look at that video. You can also see what the pre-facelift version looked like. But as always, we do get back to everybody in the comments. We're also launching a redesigned website, so you can head on over to our brand new URL, prntestdrive.com. We're going to be loading up even more content on there, including photos, more written articles and things like that. A lot more stuff is going to be going back on there. So if you are a long-term subscriber, you might recognize all of that from before, but we are going to be rolling that out. It is live as of filming this, but we hope to see you there. So as always, we appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, and share this video. And until next time, take care.